The best investment you can make has nothing to do with the stock market, crypto, or real estate. It's investing time to explore your mind. Because after all, your mind is complex. There is so much going on beneath the surface of your conscious awareness. This is because the subconscious mind holds way more information and can process way more information than your conscious mind does. And all these things happening within your subconscious mind ultimately shape your life in ways that either serve you or don't serve you. In many cases, we are directed by our unconscious mind in ways that don't make sense to us. For many people, the subconscious mind can act as the puppet master, pulling the strings of their lives in ways that don't actually help them in any way, shape, or form. But the good news is, investing time into exploring your inner world or your subconscious mind doesn't require anything like startup capital or a stroke of good luck. You can start today and quickly begin to see results. So let's discuss why you should make this investment and how you can actually see a return on this investment. If we try to ignore the inner world, as most of us do, the unconscious will find its way into our lives through pathology, our psychosomatic symptoms, compulsions, depressions, and neurosis. He's right. We get so caught up in these same patterns, emotional reactions, and routines every single day for years that we never take time to properly reflect on why it is we're doing the things that we do. And as a result, we are often confined to our conscious and reactionary states of being. We're always reacting to the external world, thinking as if it's happening to us instead of life happening through us. But the truth is, we have way more control than we think. But as I mentioned before, there is a lot of stuff going on beneath the surface of your conscious awareness. And many of these things influence the way you engage with the world around you. So to live in a reality that you enjoy experiencing, you've got to invest your time and energy into exploring your subconscious mind. Otherwise, those parts you've neglected to understand will boil up to the surface and begin directing your life in ways that you don't understand. Those parts of you are known as the shadow self. The shadow personifies everything that the subject refuses to acknowledge about himself and yet is always thrusting itself upon him directly or indirectly. From a very young age, we're told to cut out the bad habits, places, and even people who aren't helpful for us. But you can't do this with your shadow self. This is because those aspects of your shadow self are a part of you. And the interesting thing about the shadow self is that if it goes unacknowledged or unexplored, then it'll come out in ways that don't help you. But once you do understand those aspects of your shadow self, you can utilize those tendencies and those behaviors and those compulsions in ways that actually serve you. This is the idea of transmutation or alchemy, turning the negatives into a positive. Now you might be thinking, okay, the theory behind this makes perfect sense, but how do I actually do this in practice? This isn't a full shadow work guide or anything like that. That'd be a much longer video. But there are 3 things you can do today to get started. The first thing is setting aside time to do this work. Most people you talk to know the benefits of meditation or visualization or doing shadow work within their own lives, but few people actually do it. It's not because they don't see the value, but it's because they don't prioritize it. Think about it. You prioritize time every day to eat food and to take a shower and to dress yourself and go for walks and perhaps exercise. So why not prioritize the inner work within your own mind? Consistency matters a lot when doing this kind of work because it's a skill that can be developed even further and further the more you do it. So where you might struggle a lot in those first few weeks, as time passes, you begin to get into that nice state and understand parts of yourself in a smoother manner. And you don't need to do this for 2 hours every day. Even 15 minutes helps a lot. So number 2 is go into it with an intention. Before you find a quiet place, sit down, close your eyes, and go into your mind, you want to get clear on why it is you're doing it. You got to tell yourself exactly the part of you that you're trying to understand. This primes your unconscious mind to seek out the information and give it to you when you're ready. So for example, when I started doing this work, one of the things I was trying to understand about myself more was why I get so socially anxious. I would be so nervous in conversations with new people that I would say things that were perhaps inappropriate. I thought they'd be funny, but the other people just didn't take it that way. So I wanted to understand why it was I did this. What I learned from doing this shadow work, if you want to call it that, was that I desired to be accepted and to fit into these conversations so much that I was willing to push the boundaries of what I thought was appropriate in a typical conversation. And it backfired all the time. But after doing this work, I came to terms with the fact that other people might not like you, and that's okay. And I also learned that it's better to go into a conversation with somebody new without big expectations. So from that moment on, I was able to make those changes because I made the unconscious material within my mind conscious. I bridged the gap, and that's powerful. So after you have set aside time for doing this inner work and you have set your intentions, this brings us to number 3. Embrace the chaos. Look, the truth is that doing this inner work, trying to understand parts of yourself that are deep beneath the surface of your conscious awareness, it can be a bit scary. At one point or another, you might experience some repressed emotions or memories or events that you haven't thought about in years. And this can be very difficult to face, especially if you're not mentally prepared. Just know that it's all in your head and you're not actually in that experience or whatever the event was. You're simply being presented with unconscious material as to what happened. And keep in mind that once you gain clarity on whatever those things are, they no longer have the same influence over you on a day-to-day basis. Anybody who has consciously and willingly done this work knows that it's a lifelong journey. You probably won't come to some profound insight on the very first day of you trying to do this. But each time you do engage with your shadow and dive into your inner worlds to understand more about yourself, you will gain a little bit more knowledge as to why you operate in the world the way that you do. You can begin to understand those thought patterns, those behavioral patterns, and those ideas that have been floating around in your head and directing your life for all these years. And once you gain awareness of them, it's much easier to consciously change the direction of where you're going in this life. Because as I mentioned, your subconscious mind controls way more of your life than you think. So if you go all these years without immersing yourself into that subconscious mind, then it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And once you can do this, you stop being a passenger in your own life and take the damn wheel. You understand what's influencing your behavior and show up differently in everyday life. You finally break the cycles that keep repeating in your life over and over again. I'm all for hustling harder and pushing through, waking up early, staying late, and putting the work in. That stuff is important. But without understanding what's driving you from the inside, then oftentimes these efforts will be futile. You're going to fall short. So set aside that time and make this a priority. The return on investment is undeniable. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to like the video and subscribe while you're here. And if you're somebody who would like a little bit of assistance with this, if you'd like to overcome your overthinking and self-sabotage patterns so you can figure out what you want, gain mental clarity, and move forward with bold action, then check out the link below to work with me one-on-one. Alrighty then, I will see you in the next video. Bye.